Welcome to our third of an acre home in western Massachusetts. We're Jim and Jenny. We met 5 years ago and have been working toward a more resilient lifestyle in our home and in our lives. After studying permaculture around the world, we decided to take these principles to our own small property. We began with an open lot and lots of ideas. Our goal is to work with the natural environment, building and restoring soil, supporting both animals and plants, and growing as much food as we can close to home. Permaculture takes a whole systems approach to the natural environment. In permaculture, the focus is on earth care, people care, and fair share. If we can all spend some time restoring the land and promoting biodiversity, we can create more resilient communities and lives, and have fun in the process. We look forward to sharing what we are doing and hope you are able to find some ideas you can bring to your own suburban spaces. Enjoy. Alright guys, so I showed you how we're prepping the beds right now, and I think I'll just take you on a little tour of the garden and kind of what it looks like here in late March. So I'll flip the camera around and take you on a walk. Alright, so as we get to the house, the favorite of everybody is the catio. Cats are not out, but so the cats can come through the door into the basement and kind of have access to free reign to go under the patio. So they're always a big hit. They like getting out here in the nice weather. So the first thing we have is our first rain barrel here. So I kind of just set it up last weekend. It comes off the downspout, and so that'll keep us fully watered throughout the year. Last year we did not use a single drop of water out of the faucet for the outside gardening, and it's really great because it reduces the amount of energy that's used to pump all the water, and it kind of keeps everything local on site. The other side here is we got have our herb garden. So this isn't really functioning yet, but the first thing we have coming up here is sorrel. So sorrel's a nice leafy green. It's got a little lemony flavor to it. But we also have other herbs that we'll be planting throughout the year. We got mint here, and we got our chives. They're just starting to come up as well. So the chives are one of the first things to pop up. So these are usable right away. We also have some other beds that we were kind of covering through the winter. Here we got our stay away pricker zone. So these are Marion berries, kind of like a blackberry that we'll get sometime in the middle of the year. So as I was showing you guys how it's prepping, so this is the annual bed. Currently we got 5 rows that come off the back here. The wood chip pile is convenient because they can back the truck right up the side of the house and drop it right there. Here's where we kept our beehives last year, but we'll probably get rid of those this year and extend and put more rows of annuals in there this year so that we can kind of maximize that space. It was really hard to work in the garden last year when the beehives were there because the bees would kind of take over the whole garden. So really kind of maximize the garden this year. Kind of continuing to walk, we got our second rain barrel. Keep an eye on your town. Because the town will offer these at a pretty good discount. We got this last year from East Long Meadow for I think $20-25, and we've been collecting water off the porch. And like I said earlier, we used all the water on site came from our 2 rain barrels last year. So now we got our chicken coop. We have our coop kind of secured to the back of the garage, and then the chicken run back here. So when we come and get eggs, we kind of pop it open, and we got a chicken in there laying now, and we can just collect our eggs. Get them about once a day. So in the afternoons, we can kind of let the chickens roam. You don't want to let them roam in the morning because that's when they typically lay their eggs, but we can let them out and kind of roam around the yard. So on the chicken run, we have a kiwi vine. So the kiwi vine is great because it's really sparse in the winter, so all the sunlight can really get in there, keep everything dry. And in the summer, this thing goes crazy, and it'll be fully foliaged and really shade out this whole run. But as you can see, you got to prune probably 80-90% of this every year. Otherwise, it'll really take over and strangle everything down. So that's what we got there. off the back, we've been planting some forage. We got comfrey. So comfrey is just starting to come up here, and this is a really great permaculture plant. And what you can do is you can split it at the root. This is really the time of year where you want to get in here and split it. So you can get in and kind of split and transplant it around. So we probably doubled the size of our comfrey last year, and we could double it again this year if we wanted, certainly. So we got some blueberry bushes over here, still a little small. And then kind of take you around to the perennial side. We got our apple trees that we pruned. We pruned those probably February or March. Really nice time to get out on a warm day in February and have something to do when it's nice out. But not quite ready to plant anything in the ground yet. So we got an apple tree here, we got a cherry tree, we got a peach tree, apricot, plum, another apple. We got 2 new cherries last fall. Then we got our pond. Ooh, fish sighting. This is the first time I've seen the fish this year. I don't know if you guys can see that, but they got, we just kind of threw 10 or so goldfish in when we first made this pond, and they've flourished. So they've stayed little, but this proves they overwintered again. So we still got little goldfish here. So the pond is nice. It really keeps things diverse in the garden. So we can have a water source in a place for wildlife to come. We actually had giant pelican that was like the size of this tree just kind of land here. Pelican's not the word. Some giant water-loving bird kind of frequented back here for us last year. So kind of as we go further and farther back, we have different types of plants that maybe get a little more unique and diverse. So this is our asparagus patch, which we're still maybe a couple weeks away from asparagus. So this is probably the first edible plant that we'll get throughout the year, but it's probably April before we'll get that. We have currants, so we have black currants that we grew from cuttings, and we have red currants, and they're just starting to open up. So you can see this is the time of year where the greenery is just starting to show through. We have one of our most productive plants. We got raspberries. So we have 2 types of raspberries. We have a 2-year fruiting variety here, and so what happens is, try to show you an example. So you have it fruits on 2nd year stems. So the stems that are left, like this one here, so this is something that came out of the ground last year, and this will fruit this year. But then the dry looking ones, like here, so this had come out 2 years ago, fruited last year, and so what we got to do is we got to cut these back, because this is no longer useful. It already fruited last year. So we really want to keep the ones that haven't fruited, and those will produce probably in July. The other type we have that goes crazy is we cut it down every spring. So every spring, we just did this a week ago, we come in and we cut down, and you can mow down these raspberries right to the ground. And what they'll do is they'll send new shoots up this year from all the roots that are here, and they'll fruit on the first year. So they'll fruit later in the year, so probably the fall, September, October, and we probably are pulling probably a pound of raspberries a day for a 3-4 week period in the fall out of just this one row. So that's really cool. We got 4 apple trees back here, which are really starting to come into their own. So we'll keep those pruned. So what we do is we come in when we're pruning. We're really looking to prevent any kind of crossing. So you don't want any branches crossing each other. You basically want to create a lot of airflow. And it encourages fruiting to prune it down pretty well. So here's our second garlic patch, or actually our first garlic patch. You can see kind of the garlic here shooting out of the ground. It's one of the first things to come up. And so this will give us probably just this one bed that we got hay on. This will probably give us 50 bulbs. And that'll last us probably 6 months. So that's really been productive for us. So back here is kind of a work in progress. So if anyone's watching this thinking, oh my God, I could never do that. Here's what it looks like to start. We throw tarps down and kill the grass. So this whole area was just grass, probably 4 or 5 years ago. So what we do is we throw this down, and I've probably left this here a little too long. We'll pull this up and it'll give soil that we then have to amend. We have to keep adding to, and then we can plant into. So this pond is actually right where a giant tree was, probably the size of these trees back here. And now we have it surrounded by a peach tree, a couple cherry trees, and then a bunch of ground cover. So right here we got strawberries. So these plants, they actually do a really good job of spreading. So they send out little runners every year. So this is actually the bed, and then over here is actually the pathway, and it'll send out little runners so that you'll get them sprouting up all over the place. So what we do is we also plant bare root trees. So this is one we planted last year. We have a second peach. So when they go in, this has had a year to grow. And it's about waist high and has 2 or 3 shoots off of it. Fast forward a year later, on second year, and this is what a bare root tree will look like there. And then probably year 3 or 4, this peach tree's been in probably 4 years, and it's probably 12 feet tall, 14 feet tall. I had to get on a 10-foot ladder just to prune it. And yeah, that gave us a lot of peaches last year. So kind of the evolution is really cool to see, and just really shows that if you plant bare root, they're smaller to start, but then they really start to do well once the roots take over. You really want to prioritize the soil. So if you're going to a garden center, you actually don't really want to look at up high, and you actually want to sometimes get smaller plants so that they're not root bound. So you really want to prioritize the soil, keep the trunks protected, and that'll give you a stronger plant in the long term. So that's the kind of walk through the garden. Back here, we just kind of try to start to get some flowers going back here. So this was really taken over by maple trees and vines, and so that'll be a constant battle for us. But the good news is it tackled most of it last year, and now it's really just kind of maintaining. So that's the high-level walk through the middle of the garden. Now to kind of walk back up around the outside. So a couple plants that I just kind of want to show off, a little more exotic. So this one, it's a honeysuckle, and it fruits elongated blue plant berries. They taste kind of like blueberries. And then here we have pawpaw trees, a couple of them, and so they probably take some 7 years to produce, and I could not yet tell you what a pawpaw tastes like because it's only been 4. So this is kind of the shaded part of the garden. So those will come back. We have another honeysuckle here. So this is where we had potatoes last year, and a plum tree which has done quite poorly. So we're trying to nurse that back to life. Then back up the side, we got chickens roaming around, and solar panels on the roof that we got probably 4 years ago. So that's the kind of high-level tour of the garden. Not much else I can think of at this point, but yeah, I'll keep posting videos of what we're doing this year, just to kind of show something that you can do when you're out in the yard that isn't just mowing the lawn. All right, guys, so we're going to come inside, show you the setup that we've got going on the Seedlings indoors, and kind of the thought process on some of the seeds that we've got going this year. So yesterday I pulled out all the seed packets that we've purchased in the past. There's usually so many seeds that you can't get them all in 1 year. So these are all from past years. We very well might buy some more, but wanted to just take you through the thought process of what we've got so far.
So I've sorted out here some of the varieties that can go straight in the ground. And we showed you earlier what we planted today. We planted some lettuce greens, we planted some spinach directly outside. There's other things that could go in now. The peas could go in now. The carrots could probably go in now, but they would take a little bit of time to germinate and then to grow. So waiting this time of year isn't really a huge deal. But these are all directly seeded into the garden. So these are kind of a lot of our staples. So we'll get carrots, and then all of our squashes. So we got butternut squash, acorn squash, we got some melons, watermelon, cucumbers, pumpkins. And then we'll also show you basically the setup we got going for seedling startings. So that's where some things are better germinated inside. So we got our tomatoes started, we got eggplant, basil, leeks, peppers. So basically we have some trays. We actually just reuse trays. So when you go to the store and buy plants, they usually come in trays like this. You pull the plugs out, plant it in the garden, and then we just save them. So these we already had in the basement. The soil we already had. And then to kind of mark what's there, we have little popsicle sticks. So we got eggplant, basil, and basically all the back half of this is tomatoes. So once these are planted out, you wet the soil, plant the seeds in. Basically want to keep it moist and keep it in the sun and keep it warm. The warmth can really help the germination as well. And so what we did is we actually keep them in our windowsill. We got a nice south-facing window. So we put them here for now, but I'll also show you where else we put them. We have kind of a grow station downstairs. So this one has leeks and then peppers back there. So another tough part is kind of keeping it moist. So we have a little spritzer. So you basically pump, and then you can bring the wand over, and then you can kind of spray what you need. So we find kind of a once a day spray can just keep it a uniform moisture content. That's one of the real keys of kind of germinating, especially inside. So that's really a big help to be able to kind of moisten it, but not have a really strong stream or have to put it down in front of the faucet or have to transport it, so we can take the water to where it needs to go. So I'll also take you downstairs because we got, if the sun's not out or if the window doesn't have a place to go, we can bring them downstairs. So what we have set up, semi-cat proofed, is a kind of a grow station here. So we kind of put up some plastic sides. We basically have two long lights that can then kind of illuminate various trays. So these are all empty, but kind of show the amount of room we can put. So we could probably have four of those trays going at any one given time. And then to both keep moisture and heat in, and to deter certain animals like cats from jumping up and destroying everything, we can kind of put up our screen and keep everything in there. So ideally, we want to keep things in natural light if we can. So the windowsills can be really good, and at a certain point, probably 4 to 6 weeks, sometimes 8 weeks, you bring them outside for a week and then kind of harden them up in the sunlight before planting them in the ground. So this kind of helps the plants get a kickstart on the year, and it's a little cheaper than buying them in the store. So that's what we got for now. Stay tuned for more. See you guys. So I'm going to go about splitting and moving a plant that I have. So I kind of got it started here. But what I've done is I've kind of identified a plant that I want to take. So here's a hosta plant that's just starting to come up. So I really want to take one plant that's doing very well and then kind of spread it into different areas. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take it
and I've already done is kind of dug a hole around it, and then I've split it in half with a shovel. And then what I'm going to be able to do is kind of take pieces of this and move it into different places. So if you split the root system and give it more space, it'll actually allow the plant to spread a lot better. So a lot of plants will be able to propagate just by taking and splitting them. So I'll show you what that looks like and get going. So I got the one plant split, and I have 4 distinct pieces. So I split it into quadrants and then moved those to where I wanted them to be. And after you do that, you definitely want to water them deeply so that the root systems can really get that moisture, because you're really kind of damaging them, and want to make sure that they get reestablished where you want them to be. But that's a common technique, and this would be the time of year, early April, anytime in April really, and then kind of let the rains take them in. So this one actually did not move from where it was, but you can see they're kind of already able to be reestablished. And I'll be able to come through and add some mulch onto here and protect the soil from where it's going to be, to kind of give these plants a good place to live. Hey guys, so wanted to show you a couple different types of varieties of plants and how they're different when you split them. So we just showed the hosta plant, splitting that into one big clump into 4 smaller clumps. So now I'm going to show you a comfrey plant. And the thing about comfrey is you can actually propagate it by its root entirely. You actually don't even need any of the above ground. So I'm gonna show you what it looks like underground, but similar concept. You're able to take smaller parts of the root and transplant those to other parts of the garden. Obviously, the bigger part of the root you're able to take, the stronger the plant will be once you transplant it. So we really want to try to get some of the parts of the plant that have, you know, some of the above ground growth, but I'll show you kind of what it looks like underground to show how the roots can really propagate. The thing about comfrey is, so our variety doesn't propagate by seed. It's actually a very, very strong grower. So it splits very easily, and it'll grow a lot. So we actually use it as we'll call it a chop and drop. So as it grows over the course of the year, you can chop it and then give it to the chickens. So we throw them into the chickens, which is why we got it right here next to the coop. And it's good forage for them to eat throughout the year, and you can probably cut it 3, 4, 5 times throughout the year once they're established plants. So we're slowly doubling the size of our area of comfrey. So we pretty much have almost this whole area covered in comfrey at this point. But there's other parts of the garden that I'm gonna put it. So I'm actually gonna go put it under one of the apple trees, which again is a good to put under as a companion plant, because it'll really have a lot of growth, and then you can chop that and leave it at the base of the tree as a little bit of a mulch throughout the year. So I'm going to show you what it looks like underground. So what I was able to pull out is I actually have two things I'm going to replant. You actually don't need the new growth on top. You could actually just replant this root, and this would propagate in and of itself. But I'm going to replant both of these over underneath the apple tree we have here. So this area we have some yarrow growing. We have some other types of flowering plants to really attract pollinators and bees and butterflies and other things to the area, so that they can really support the apple tree. So this is really in permaculture what you would call a guild. We really want to support the apple tree and give it the best things it can to grow. So what we're going to do right now is actually take out some of the grass that's here and really plant some of the comfrey so that can take over and we can be able to chop it down throughout the year. So this is kind of a good use of propagating within your own yard. So we're able to kind of take our own plants, spread them around, and really take the ones that are doing well and spread them out to other areas. So I'm gonna put these in the ground and maybe even some more so we can really get some comfrey in and around the apple tree. Hey guys, so the video cut out. Just wanted to show you what the end result is. I kind of got the two root systems planted right here. And I'm going to put a couple more in so that we can really fill out the area between our cherry tree and our apple tree. And so these are really vigorous growing plants. So they'll really take out and they'll shade the whole rest of this bed. So we won't really have to deal with any of the ground cover. So super easy to split plants. Want to make sure they're strong, they're big enough where they can withstand it, but it actually helps plants grow better to be able to split them and move them and really provide ample space for them to grow. Many times if they get kind of root bound in the area they are, they'll actually do a lot better and grow a lot more vigorously if you're able to split them and move them around. So before you split anything, you can do a little research just to see what plants can be split and which plants can propagate. Many bushes you really can't do that because they're are obviously trees you can't split. The root system matters, but a lot of the perennials, a lot of flowering perennials, you can definitely do that too. So definitely for wildlife, bees, butterflies, and beauty, you can really use this technique in a lot of the perennials to kind of expand your garden. Hope you enjoyed.